Hey there, boys, girls, and flying squirrels. My name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, we're going to do something a little different, as I spoke not to a band, but to co-founder of Soundpruf, Alex Nordenson. To distill Soundpruf down, it's if Last.fm had way more features. It tracks your streaming plays and compiles it to show your listening history, which I think is something really fascinating and something that can be really beneficial to listeners. Along with your basic analytics, Alex and his co-founder Liam are looking at ways to reward you both as a listener and the bands you play the most. Initially, it was going to involve cryptocurrency and blockchain, but they have since taken a step back on that, but they're still looking at other ways to give you rewards for your devotion to your favorite bands, and especially if they're up-and-coming bands, as they are partnering with some to try and give you maybe discounts on merch or concert tickets or records, which is something we all get into, as they have partnered with Last Import as the first band. They want to start showing off this product. And you know, I could continue to attempt to explain Soundpruf to you and just continue to butcher it, but we got the guy with the idea to do it for me, so let's let him do that. This is Alex Nordenson, co-founder of Soundpruf, on the Ear Coffee Podcast. So today I'm joined by Alex Nordenson, co-founder and CEO of Soundpruf. Alex, how are you doing this morning? Today? It's the afternoon.
Doing well, yeah. Happy to be a part of the conversation. Thanks for inviting me to join today.
So during the prep for this interview, I found it hard to put a label on what Soundpruf is. It's a streaming platform companion that can maybe make the listener and the band money. Alex, how would you describe Soundpruf to someone who would just ask you what it is?
Yeah, good question. So Soundpruf is a earning and analytics platform for music fans and emerging artists. And the way that I would think about it a little bit more specifically is we are an application. Soundpruf is an application that connects to your Spotify account. Okay. Similar to how you might sign into something through Facebook. Or you might sign into something with your bank account. And we're essentially turning all of your music streaming data into a new kind of value for you and the emerging artists that you listen to. And so it starts with, tracking all the minutes that you're spending listening to one artist versus another, versus one genre versus another. Kind of developing a narrative of who you are as a music fan over time, and then doing three things with essentially with that data and with that narrative. One is finding new revenue opportunities for the artists that you support. The second is just bringing you a fun, insightful new narrative and storyline around who you are as a music fan. Right now, you don't get a lot of transparency into your music data, your streaming data when you go to Spotify. I love Spotify, but you can't dig into your stats.
The best you usually get is the end of year kind of review.
Right. So a really good way to think about what we're doing is we are a daily, dynamic, expanded version of Spotify Wrapped. Don't have to wait once a year. And then the third element is, which I can touch on, is giving music fans, music listeners, streamers an opportunity to earn redeemable points, kind of like credit card points for things that they listen to, or based on what they listen to. Yeah.
So before we get further into Soundpruf and kind of and maybe build off a little bit of what you talked about, I'd like to learn a bit about your history with music, because you kind of think of people who maybe are working around a Spotify or another kind of platform. You don't always picture them as someone who's maybe a music fan, other than maybe they want to make money off it. So what's your relationship with music like? I know when we were talking before we started recording, you are from Minneapolis and you kind of had some connections beforehand, but just kind of tell me about that.
Yeah. Hard to summarize, but I'll try. So I've been a music fan for as long as I can remember. Since I was 13, 14 years old, and music has always been a huge part of friendships and a part of my kind of career and personal aspirations. I never could quite hack it myself as a musician, despite trying to do cover bands and learn the piano and guitar and stuff like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to ask you if you did try and do a band or something.
Yeah. So my co-founder and I are a good pair, because he actually spent a few years in a band, and had some decent success actually, but ended up kind of burning out on it and deciding that he wanted to be a software engineer. So he's the artist of the two of us, but he and I grew up together and kind of discovered Napster together and CD burning and all that kind of stuff. And so we've been kicking around various ideas within music for a long time. But no, for me, it's always been just like the one automatic passion in my life. You know, I used to, before this, I worked in advertising at a few companies in New York, and you know, deep in kind of the digital advertising tech world. But I've always worked on startups, and I've always kind of intended, if possible, to get back into music. And in college I wrote album reviews and I went to Boston College, and I was super into going to local shows in Boston and writing about the Shins, or writing about Jay-Z, or writing about kind of music and culture. And I had wanted after college to get into A&R and work for a label. That was like my dream, but I realized pretty quickly that getting an entry-level job in the music business is kind of a paradox. I'm not sure if there are entry-level jobs that are not internships in the record label world. So decided to go into advertising instead. It was like an easier route to like learning and you know, making some money out of college, that kind of thing. So my life over the last like 10 years has primarily been like music has been a passion. It's what I do with my friends. I go to festivals. I follow digital music like crazy. But
are you someone who like goes to the record store and like digs through like the rare and random vinyl bin, or are you, or something like that, or sharing playlists, or?
Yeah, so I do. I have a fairly. I've had a good resurgence over the last few years in terms of interest in vinyl, and I do love going to like cheapo locally, and like I'd go to record stores in Brooklyn when I lived out there, finding stuff, and I love buying albums of new bands that I've like gone to see live for the first time. So that's something I love to do, but I've always loved discovering new music and sharing it with friends, and I've always like had friendships where my friends do the same. So I probably have 5 or 6 text chains going right now, and have for the last like 10 years with certain friend groups about certain types of music. And for me, I have my favorite bands and my favorite genres and the artists that I keep coming back to over and over again. But I always love discovery, and that's a big piece of kind of why Soundpruf was exciting to me as an opportunity.
So where did you get the idea for Soundpruf? What was that moment that, as someone you mentioned that you're really into discovery and keeping things at the forefront of kind of your view, or kind of on the top of your memory, just to always go back to? So Soundpruf was, I would say, it was a slow simmering idea that started pretty soon after Spotify launched in the United States. So I think that was 2011, and at that time I was, in my early 20s. I think I was, went to Bonnaroo for the first couple times around then, and started going to the Newport Folk Festival, and started to go to a lot of shows in New York and Boston, and when I was living on the East Coast. And I think Soundpruf was really it's a combination of things that I've always been really interested in: music streaming, and like the future kind of where music is heading, music innovation. I've always followed that very heavily as a music fan, and also data analytics and kind of lifestyle automated tracking. I just recently kind of remembered this, but in 2012 I for some reason there was certainly no incentive for me to do this, but I took a picture of every single thing that I ate in 2012. And put it on Evernote. I think Evernote at the time had an app called Evernote Food that was all about like helping you kind of understand your habits in terms of eating. And I just got really excited about it, and I thought it would be a really cool project, like almost an art project that I could look back on at the end of the year. But since then, that was a random, meaningless project, but it was interesting, and I've also become very interested in and a participant in like exercise tracking, and every movie that I listen to, or every movie that I see, I log with an app called
letterboxed.
Okay.
And so I think there's kind of been this cultural wave towards like taking ownership of your own data and learning things from your own habits, assuming you have the data to like dig into. And I've just, as someone who's followed the Strokes since I was 15, and followed the Killers and followed Atmosphere, and discovered like plenty of artists that I've told my friends about, and had my friends discover artists that they told me about. I've always just found it so fascinating to think about like the actual data that has made up kind of who I am as a fan, and who my friends are as fans, and how many actual hours I've spent listening to the Strokes since I was 15 years old. And like, if that is more than anyone else that I know, or if it's way less than like the biggest fan in New York or the biggest fan in Minneapolis, I'm sure it is. But like, I've always found the story of kind of unpacking music data to be very interesting. And I think now that I got inspired to actually pursue Soundproof, because I found the right partner, but also because I feel like now we're at a moment where it's everyone who is passionate about music more or less is streaming, whether they pay for a plan or whether they use a free service. But I think we're kind of at this point where it's kind of up to us to figure out where music is going to head next, and like what kind of innovations are going to make it more exciting and more fun and connecting artists to fans. And for me, it felt like the timing was right to do something a little bit deeper with music data and helping fans kind of make the most of it for artists as well. Yeah.
I forgot to mention this, but just to backtrack slightly. So you grew up with the co-founder, Liam is his name, right?
My co-founder, his name is Liam Ellis. He's a software engineer. We grew up together in Minneapolis. We went to middle school and high school together.
So what was that conversation like when did you pitch the idea of Soundproof to him to like say this would be really cool to create, or were you guys talking about something like that, or how was that formed?
Yeah. Interesting question. So it was very unexpected, actually. So Liam and I, we lived in New York, not together, but both lived in Brooklyn for several years in our mid-20s, and saw each other frequently with other friends. And when he decided to become a software engineer, he and I started kind of off and on talking more about technology together, and just I worked in advertising and ad tech and a couple different software startups, and I've always been very, very excited by startups and followed the space, and I've loved working on like small teams with people to get ideas off the ground. And Liam was always one of my smartest friends, and he was becoming a software engineer, and so he and I would riff on things like occasionally over text and when we'd see each other, and it became clear he was really passionate now too about kind of pursuing his own ideas for something to build. And so we had kind of this like low simmering conversation over like the last like few years, but then it really kind of got to like a higher gear when my wife and I decided to leave New York, and we actually went on a 4-month road trip after we left. We didn't know we were going to land in Minneapolis. It was kind of like a soul searching kind of trip and a once in a lifetime kind of thing before we had kids. Yeah. And at the end of it, we actually we landed back in New York for a little while we kind of got our bearings, staying with my wife's parents. And at that time, I didn't have a job, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I was working on helping to produce an indie movie, which is another interest of mine. But I came back to this idea of Soundproof. I was hanging out with some college friends, and I was very intrigued. I kind of got like re-inspired by some of the conversations that I was having with friends about the artists that they were into recently. I just started thinking about it again, this idea of kind of a platform that takes in all of your music data and does things that are exciting with it, interesting, and helps you unpack who you are as a fan, that kind of thing. And I had plans to hang out with Liam and another friend on Friday night when I was back, and basically brought the idea to him, and I was very excited about it, and I just kind of wanted to see what he thought as someone who used to be in a band and loves music and loves technology. And he got a hold of it pretty quickly, was really excited about the vision for it, and the thing that pushed it over the edge and into a project we had actually started doing in a company that we actually decided to start together is that he actually started building it. I'm not an engineer, so for me it's all about it's about baking an idea and getting someone else excited about it who can help me build it. And for me in this case, Liam was that person who actually said, yeah, let's just start building this. And like a few days later he sent me the first version of kind of a prototype of it. So
oh, nice.
That was generally how the conversation went. So I owe him for actually pushing the heavy boulder down the road.
Gotcha. Yeah. So kind of moving forward, in an interview with Andrew Brick that was posted to Medium, you discussed Soundpruf, and you just kind of mentioned it before, how important it is tracking listener habits are and trends to kind of keep artists fresh in the mind. How important is that in the modern world of music consumption to have that data in front of you?
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing about music right now, and one of the biggest inspirations for what we're doing, is that it's an amazing time to be a music fan because you can listen to anything all the time, and there's endless diversity, there's endless variety. It's super easy to switch gears from a Beatles greatest hits to the tiniest local band that just put their first EP up on Spotify. It's super easy to switch gears, and there's so many sources of inspiration for what we all listen to, whether it's festivals or social media or friends or blogs. It's really, really hard though to keep one or two or a handful of artists like top of mind. It's hard for artists to keep themselves top of mind, but it's also hard even for a fan to kind of have a firm grasp on who they've supported the most and what bands have really dominated most of their time. And I think that's one of the reasons why Spotify Wrapped has become so fun for music fans, because they realize that their habits actually surprise them, or they spend the year thinking about what might end up on their Spotify Wrapped, but turns out it's Mariah Carey after all, or it's something like that, like where people are like, oh man, like I never knew that I listened to so much Elvis or something, and then it shows up. And so I think it's that what you listen to musically says a lot about who you are as a person, and a lot about your taste, and a lot about what you care about. And so I think it's really kind of a missed opportunity. And one of the genesis of Soundpruf is that it's kind of a missed opportunity if fans don't know where they've spent most of their time, and like all the Americans listen to an average of 32 hours of music a week.
Oh wow!
To not know where you spend that time, and to be able to tap, if you spend 5 hours a week listening to Hippocampus, this local Minneapolis band, you should know that, and they should know that. That's valuable. Just like if you spend $1,000 a month on at one grocery store, that probably qualifies you for some kind of special deals from that grocery store. So that's kind of there's a lot of reasons, if to unpack it further. But I think it's something that now is accessible. Is kind of the data that we each spend individually or have individually with artists, and it's just a matter of thinking about it creatively and tapping into it in a unique way.
Yeah, I know. So with Ear Coffee, we like to do like a year in review, kind of here's our favorite albums, and there's comes to a point where you either miss something or when you're scrolling through your phone, or I've come down to keep a journal and I just write things down every month of like, this is the album I really enjoyed, here, release this, just because unfortunately you don't have that like thing that pushes it back into your kind of your view. Have you using Soundpruf a little bit, have you found any sort of like trends that maybe surprised you in your listening or something like that? Or
well, I think what one of the intents of the app for us, and right now we're in what's known as the alpha stage, so we're preparing for a beta, which is kind of the first version that's more public. Right now we're in testing with a group of like early users, and we're moving to beta next. But what I think is really exciting about the app just as a music fan, and what I'm essentially building, like we're building a tool that I wanted to use.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun for me because it's if I don't have fun using it, then I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Or this isn't going well if it's not fun for me. So one of the biggest incentives is being able, as soon as you start having full transparency into like everything that you listen to, like how many hours you put against this artist and that artist and this genre and that genre. It starts to change how you think about what you listen to music. It starts you start to feel that there's a little bit more weight in my decisions because it adds to my totals, and it adds to my particular, bank of devotion to this one artist. And for me, it's helped me realize, as we add more like users to the platform, even test users, there's all kinds of options for music discovery. So what we do is we show you right now in the basic version of our application what your top artists are this week, this month, and all time, since you signed on for Soundpruf. And we also show you what the top artists are this week, this month, and all time across the entire platform. Okay. And so I can go on and instantly get new ideas of what to listen to based on what other people are listening to who are Soundpruf users. And they can do the same. And eventually we have some really cool ideas of how we can incorporate some social features so that you could essentially follow what your friends are listening to in a more interesting way. And you could potentially follow what like celebrities, like top 50 artists and things like that. And I think a lot of it is that kind of passive sharing, like crossover of your listening habits versus mine, and getting reasons to check out something new.
On the website, Soundproof's website, it talks about using blockchain to make money for both the user and the artist that you listen to. Kind of explain how that works.
Yeah, so we actually, I'm glad you asked because blockchain is a little bit less of a focus of ours now. Okay. So I'm really excited, Liam is as well, about kind of where like distributed ledger tech is going, like where blockchain is going. I think it is going to have a huge impact on a lot of things in our lifetimes. Finance, it's going to have a big impact on music, already sort of has. It's going to have a big impact on probably cities. And there are some ideas that we're digging into for how to use blockchain to kind of enhance some of the features that we have. But we are more than anything right now focused on creating a product that can go to market and is highly fun, highly usable, highly engaging. And I think when we first started out, we were a lot more focused on using blockchain technology, creating a particular coin that would only work on the Soundpruf platform. And I think we were a little bit naive at that point about kind of just how like young and like nascent blockchain adoption actually was. And so for us right now, it's much less about, we want people to use our application and have fun with it and be able to share it and get it. And I think blockchain could be a part of it in the future, but right now it's much more about creating an application that's easy to onboard and don't have to have any fancy knowledge of blockchain. Yeah. Gotcha.
So we were chatting again before we started recording, and you partnered with Last Import, a band we've kind of covered, and kind of the way we've connected is a part of Soundproof's launch. So tell me a little bit about how that relationship works.
Yeah. So we are a big part of what we're doing is helping music fans like kind of deepen their engagement with emerging artists that they support and that they want to succeed. And it starts with tracking, how much time you spent listening to that artist, but we have ideas and features that go beyond that, into helping those artists actually earn additional revenue from their streams, and also helping fans come along for the ride. So if you started listening to a young local artist like Last Import that you think has a potential in the next 4 or 5 years to start playing big festivals and to become a big, like a household name in indie rock, and you spend a lot of time listening to them as they ride that kind of wave, you should you should earn a piece of that. You should get some reward. You should get some get a sense of accomplishment, and like you've earned something for being such a valuable investor, in their success.
Yeah.
And so that's a feature that's kind of the reward side of our feature.
Okay.
We have an insights and kind of a reward side of Soundproof.
Gotcha.
Insights is more the Spotify Wrapped everyday kind of thing, and rewards is where we're going next. But with artists like Last Import and other artists that are emerging, for us, it's really important to get in touch with them and to build a relationship with them, because a lot of where we're heading is going to be serving them and figuring out ways that they struggle to connect with their fans, like ways that analytics platforms currently don't serve them very well, and also their fans are the people who are into like local music discovery and following artists from day one are people who love music and people who spend a lot of time listening to music, and for us they're kind of a critical audience for us to reach. So partnerships with artists are always going to be something that we're going to secure. Sometimes they're going to be informal and just artists loving what we're doing and we love what they do, so we promote each other. Other times they might be more official. We're working on a few different kinds of partnerships now, but Last Import was it was kind of just serendipitous because I met the drummer and started listening to their music and was impressed, and they were really interested in what we were doing and our vision, and we showed them a demo of our prototype and started talking and agreed to kind of help each other with some promotion.
So then you are planning on partnering with other acts here, not just in the cities, but probably across the nation at some point, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking. I can't give any other names, but we're talking to a number of artists right now and their management teams about different types of partnerships. And so it'll always be. Like I said, sometimes they'll be potentially more marketing focused and more cross promotional. Other times they may be more like product feedback oriented. We also hope to have artists as investors at some point in what we're doing. We're super excited about some of the conversations we're having right now.
So then you mentioned a rewards kind of system along with the insights.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the rewards then.
Yeah. So it's we're really excited about where we're heading here. So I compare it most of the time to the way that credit card points work or airline miles. So the more you use your credit card, the more points you earn to spend on, or I should say, the more you use your credit card for certain types of purchases, you earn a little bit more versus when you use your credit card for every single purchase. So dining and gas is our kind of premium point earning categories. We're trying to implement something very similar for music streaming. So if you spend 80% of your time listening to Spotify Viral 50 and Global 50 and Top 50 and you spend 20% of your time listening to up and coming artists that have under 20,000 monthly listeners, then you are probably going to be like a lighter points earner because the music discovery is not quite what you're into. You like the hits and you're into acts that have already like really crossed that threshold, and that's totally cool. Like we're not about we still think Soundpruf would be a blast for you to use because you can better understand your listening habits and connect with other people and find out about new artists. But the idea is that for fans who are really excited about discovery, who love following new artists, telling their friends about a new band that they heard or a new rapper that they heard, if you're someone that listens to 50, 60, 70% emerging music, always listening to kind of underground stuff, and do a lot skew less towards listening to kind of top 40, top 50 stuff, then you're going to be a bigger points earner. And eventually we're looking into kind of different ways of categorizing artists based on how quickly they're growing and popularity scores and things like that. But and we have some interesting kind of tech work happening on that front. But yeah, we want to make it really a real tangible thing when you're someone that pours a lot of time into new artists. We think that's valuable and that you should feel that in the form of some kind of reward. And in our case, we don't want you just to the point is not, hey, you earned $10, like cash out and go buy gas with it. The idea is that you're earning points that are directly redeemable for discounts on things that music fans want.
Okay.
So a concert ticket, a discount code to use on merchbar.com to buy like vinyl or to buy a concert poster. Eventually, maybe using to subsidize your Spotify account. So the idea is you have. If you are someone who's particularly like savvy about listening to music and you love discovery, then you're going to be earning more points, and you can actually like start to pay for some of the music habits that you have, mainly by listening to like a lot of new music.
So your coffee primarily covers a mixture of bands that are either totally independent or maybe they're on a small DIY label that maybe don't use Spotify but use Bandcamp. Would Soundproof be able to track plays through the Bandcamp's music player? Because it's a weird system. Because I, as someone who uses it just because out of necessity as opposed to something that maybe I enjoy using because it's not as intuitive.
Are you in a band as well?
Yes and no.
Okay, so you use Bandcamp for both artist stuff and also fan stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bandcamp's interesting. I think right now we're not integrated with their music player, with their streaming player. We're focused on Spotify for the time being, just because they have the most scale, and they have a very robust developer API. I think Bandcamp is something that we'd love to explore. I think it's not a platform that ranks very high for fans to where they like to listen to music.
Unfortunately, it's definitely a platform that the music player was the afterthought. And
you can tell.
Yeah,
and I think Bandcamp serves some serious needs. Like they have some good features for sure. But I think as a streaming service, it's not yet even close to where the others are.
Oh yeah.
So for us, I'd love to find a way to incorporate. It makes perfect sense. Like if the first 10 songs that you hear of a new band are only on Bandcamp before they've distributed anything to Spotify, then it would be a real shame for us not to be able to incorporate those like first 10 listens into your Soundproof history. But I think the thing is, like right now Bandcamp, then they probably are feeling this, but it's so easy to get your music up on Spotify using like CD Baby and TuneCore and like those distribution platforms that for most artists that we see, they're up on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud pretty much instantly and don't have to like stop at Bandcamp and then go.
Yeah, because there was a band just released an album today. The band's called In Lieu, and so I kept refreshing the Spotify page until it like popped up at 11 o'clock this morning.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely, once I saw it, I was on Bandcamp at 11, but I had to wait till like 11:30 for it to. So it was once I saw it pop
really?
up.
But there was a half an hour where it was only on Bandcamp.
Yeah, so I definitely once I saw it, I popped back over to Spotify just because I was like, this is much easier because.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, but that's an issue that we should we'll continue to think about how to tap into Bandcamp in the right way. I think it's, like I said, it serves a need, but it hasn't been a focus for us. Yeah.
And you're gearing up to release a beta, like you've mentioned. Are spots still available for people to sign up for that, or if people's interested to maybe get on the wait list, how would people go about that?
Yeah. So we do have some spots available. We've had a lot of fortunately we've had a lot of people signing up over the last few weeks from various some social posts that we've done and from some of our other like marketing endeavors. We're pretty much underground right now as we're starting to get the word out more. And if people want to sign up for our beta, there are some limited spots left. I think we have probably like 50 or 60 spots left at this point. So they can go to our website at www.soundproof.com. Or email me or find me on Twitter as well. Yeah.
And then do you have a release date for the beta, or is that kind of under wraps currently?
It'll be sometime in early May.
Okay. Yeah. And then finally, just is there anything else that you think people should know about Soundproof that I maybe didn't think to ask you yet? Or I know that's a really broad question, but
no, I think honestly, what I would like to say is that if you're someone that right now streams music, whether it's on Spotify, on Bandcamp, on Apple Music, on Google, on Deezer, whatever service you use, Soundproof is built for you. You know, it's we're our kind of core audience is like our mega music fans that love discovery and are really kind of hungry to understand what makes them unique as a music fan. But there's a lot more that's going to be coming to the music world, I think, because of all the data that exists right now within streaming platforms. And I think it comes down to kind of how you use that data creatively. And so whether you're a Spotify Wrapped fan or you're someone that likes to track your exercise, you like to track your reading, whatever it is that you're kind of interested in digging into, if you also love music, I think that that you should give Soundproof a try and sign up for a beta.
Well, excellent. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're interested in learning more about Soundpruf, you can head to their website, soundpruf.com. You can find all of their social media links, plus some of the articles we mentioned during the interview. My name's Joe Keyport, and you've been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. We are a companion to the blog of the same name. You can find us also on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Ear Coffee. Look for a coffee cup with an ear coming out of it and an earbud, and you'll have figured it out. It's Minneapolis music with a cynical edge to it. If you enjoyed what you've heard, please rate and review us on iTunes, as it helps us stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. Again, my name's Joe Keyport. You've been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. I'll see you next time.